back to the Wentworth CM Club podcast. This is your host, Chase K. Cook, along with co-hosts Zach and Adam. And today, this is our final episode of spotlighting women in construction at Wentworth for Women in Construction Week. And we're so excited to have Abby Trainor on the show. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Abby. We would love to hear your story on how you found Wentworth. What about Wentworth, made you interested, and how you found yourself in the construction industry and how you knew you wanted to pursue a career in construction.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. So I'll start off with how I got interested in the construction industry. And I have to give all the credit to my father, as he had a residential construction business that he started back in the 80s. And I grew up on his construction sites, starting to go out there and follow him around when I was 3 years old or so. Of course, I started off doing things like digging through the dirt and finding big pieces of mica. So I would do mica hunting while he was working. But over the next couple of years, I started to get a little bit more, hands-on with the actual work of the houses. So that passion continued on through all my schooling. I did wood shop in junior high and high school. I completed 2 New Hampshire state-run CTE vocational programs where I got to work with a couple different building crews every day. And then Wentworth, I found them when I was in the 10th grade. And I didn't really know what I wanted to get from college. I knew that I wanted to go, and I knew that I wanted to do something with construction for the rest of my life. And so Wentworth piqued my interest because of the close location. I love where I live, and it was only an hour away. So we went down and visited it. Seems they had the top program in the country for construction management. And when I was looking through schools, one of the top things that we focused on was what classes are you taking? So looking at all the different curriculums, comparing Roger Williams, WPI, and WIT. WIT offered the most focused curriculum into construction. And they also offered the most hands-on classes that were offered all 4 years of your education. Plus, of course, our co-ops, which have been amazing. But they caught me on the 10th grade visit, and I knew right then and there that's where I wanted to go. I can easily say it's been the best decision that I've made for my future, and getting a foot into the door of this management side. Seems I've grown up in the residential construction side. We were design build, but you run your own business, a lot smaller, much different than these bigger companies. So Wentworth has really opened up a whole new world of that commercial and industrial side, and it's just been great so far.
Yeah, the curriculum is definitely hands-on, and another important thing is that the curriculum is accredited by the ACCE, which is the accreditation for construction education, and it's also a bachelor in science. So with some programs, you want something that's accredited and a bachelor's of science.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting too. I've never really talked to someone else. So you looked at Roger Williams too.
Yeah.
I looked there. It's a nice school, and the cafeteria is really nice, and they actually,
Yes.
I don't know about when you were there. You were probably there before me, but when I toured, they actually had a brand new construction building going up that I think was going to be done by the time I would have been going in as a freshman. So
yeah, I remember that actually. It was, the campus was beautiful, and they did offer, a lot of different comparable classes to Wentworth. But again, with the humanities, that was too much of a push there. And the labs were something that they were planning and had gotten the funding and approval for, but they hadn't started the construction yet for them. So I think for me, I would have been basically going into my junior year by the time anything would have been offered in there.
Yeah, and construction management's not um really a super popular major. It's not something that every school in the country has, but I
Right.
think Wentworth being in Boston is really perfect for co-ops because there's always an insane amount of construction going on. And
Boston's
I
like literally your classroom. You can walk
Right.
one
yeah,
block and then you can see a site and apply what you learned, whether it's like masonry or concrete or, you know, reading the documents, you know.
Yeah, well, it's really unique getting to use like the city as your campus.
yeah, I
Totally.
commute now, and I mean I noticed it before, but when I commute, like when I'm going in and out of this
Hmm.
city, I probably see like 20 or 30 different construction companies that do all different kinds of things. And as a student, I mean, you might see them and say, hey, that looks cool, and then you can look them up and send them an email, which students have done. So I
Right.
actually last spring I was in the seaport um with one of my friends, and we were like watching from outside a job site fence, and some guy came walking over like pretty much as soon as we stopped and started watching. And he said, are you kids from Wentworth? And we were like, actually, yeah. And he was talking to us, and we got his business card, so that was pretty funny. And he had actually gone to Wentworth too, so literally
Yeah,
just
it's
walking
crazy how
around.
many people have. Yeah, they
Yeah. And then
um
like Boston as your classroom with like the commercial industrial construction and advancements going on.
Yeah, like Zach was saying, you guys were talking about like Wentworth, like just the name carries so much around here.
yeah, anywhere you go, even, at our national conferences, Wentworth for the particular degree that we offer, like we were saying, it's not a typical one, but we compete up with Georgia, yeah, I think it's Georgia, Virginia Tech, and I think one out in Texas recently came up close to us. But one of Sumner's favorite things to say to any, incoming freshman is that, there is so much going on in the city all the time, all these different opportunities. When you look outside, you can learn very quickly that the city's bird is a crane.
Are you
Choices
only
for
on
the
your
British
first co-op?
Yeah, I'm only on my first because last summer I was going to do one, and then I gave myself a really bad concussion from thinking that I could walk up the stairs before I passed out, and
Ooh.
didn't work out well. So I built a tree fort out in my woods all summer, but I couldn't like work in a fast-paced thing. I had to do my own little adventure out there with some pallets that I picked up from around town for free.
Do you have like any stories or anything from co-op that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
You don't have to name like specific companies if you don't want to, but kind of some of the things you're interested in and where you're kind of looking to head in the future.
Sure. So for my first co-op, I've been working with Methuen Construction. They're located in their headquarters out of Plastown, New Hampshire, and they do a lot of work in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, some in Connecticut. They focus mostly on kind of like a mix of heavy civil and industrial. So a lot of the projects that I've been working on right now are wastewater treatment plants and water treatment. Um, it's been a really like cool experience with them so far, just because the way that it worked out with the different project managers that I've been paired with every 2 weeks since I've started back in January. I've worked for somebody new on a different project, doing a new task. So when I first started, I was working a site down by the Cape, and it was a wastewater treatment. So my tasks on there were working with the vendors, talking about warranty extensions if the owner wanted any, as well as a couple of change orders just for things that we had scheduled to do earlier. But because of course, there's going to be changes throughout the course of construction. So they got delayed, and I just had to requote what the product was going to cost in the next couple months. Then I worked on a water treatment plant in Haverhill, Mass. kind of in the closeout phase. So the first couple days I was down in one of the was it one of the DAF tanks, I think. No, not that, but one of the big storage tanks that is used throughout the treatment, and the sand filters. And we were doing concrete repair. So I was in charge of the QA and QC of the, making sure everything's grinded down and then applying the Armatech products correctly and helping them cure. Then I finished up with valve tags and pipe markings with that project, which was a whole nother ball game for me, because it was these huge industrial mechanical plants, and I've never seen anything like that. We don't really look at stuff like that in building systems. We stick more on like smaller commercial, and it was really cool. I was pretty proud of myself by the end of a couple of days, because I actually understood the plans a little bit then. But that was a good experience. And now I am just finishing up working on a project out in Pittsfield, which is another wastewater. With that one, I really just have been working in the office and diving into the spec section for valve tags again, and ordering those. And I'm very excited to be on Monday starting my next project in Portsmouth on the Naval Shipyard. I'm supposed to be helping out with 2 projects they have going on out there. And I'll be kind of dabbling around in everything. I think that's what I've, gotten the feel from, and we'll see how it goes on Monday, but I'm really excited.
It's funny that you mentioned the Naval Shipyard in Portsmouth, because I know someone that went to Wentworth and graduated a couple of years ago that's a nuclear engineer that works there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's
That's
kind of
cool.
funny.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long login process on the first day. It's gonna take about half a day to get through their badging office, but
because the
get rolling.
security.
Yeah, it's very well protected. With
Yeah, and that's
phones
super
you can't.
cool about your co-op, how you're alternating like every 2 weeks with a new person and like kind of like new site. Keeps
Right,
things
because I get to learn about a whole different project. I get to learn from a whole new person, and I
be able to adjust quick and be adaptable. Totally.
Right, yeah, and sometimes I've mostly on the Haverhill project, but I got to work hand in hand with the crew, and that was really, really cool. So
yeah,
been a good experience. I'm very happy with my choice.
Have you done any wastewater treatment plants where they're like cleaning out gray water? Because I remember just learning that in building systems.
Yeah, so actually it was really interesting. The first project that I was put on down by the Cape in Marion, the civil engineers, they bid out the project and design all the paperwork and do the estimates for the first couple of years or so. And then we come in and we bid on them as public companies. And the civil engineers who bid out this project were asking us to drain down one of the lagoons. And there's 4 lagoons on this site, but basically what it is where all the raw sewage gets pumped into from all the surrounding piping from the towns. And the solids settle at the bottom, and the water rises up to the top, and it slowly works its way out into the different UV filter buildings and everything. So the issue that arose was that while draining out Lagoon 1, there was way more sludge solids down at the bottom than the civils had originally expected. Basically, they accounted for 1/3 of the sludge that was actually inside there. And so obviously that bumped the cost way up, and it was a publicly funded town project. So, you vote on your town budget every couple months, and they had already allotted that amount and weren't expecting more. So we had to kind of put a pause on that part of the project and stopped draining. So it's just kind of like halfway filled right now. And we finished up work in the UV building and the other like sand filter buildings. But they'll be voting on their budget again, I want to say in May, to, revote in funding, and then we will finish draining it and line it with the plastic and everything and get them back going.
Did you ever work with Clean Harbors on that project?
Um,
I know that they're one of like the big sort of like hazardous material and like water contractors that does that kind of stuff.
yeah, I don't think so. But I came in kind of like on the closeout of the buildings. I wasn't there during any of the pumping, so I didn't see any of the trucks. And
Yeah.
I've read so many different contractors on that, work with all the vendors for the warranties, that the company names just kind of are gone at this point.
The other thing I was curious too is so where I live, part of the problem, with today's knowledge and everything of infrastructure is like where I live, a lot of the sewer pipes, so like your black water from houses goes
Yeah.
into the same pipe that like your storm drain in the street goes into, which is fine. But then the problem is when we get a ton of rain, it just fills way up, and you don't really need to treat just runoff from the street the same way you treat black water from the house. And then what ends up happening is the treatment plant can't handle that surge, and they end up just dumping raw sewage into the river like temporarily, because what else are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
now they're going around and they're trying to separate the sewer and then like the regular well, I should say the storm and the sewer, right? I guess would be
Yeah.
the right terminology.
Yeah, the plan terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I always knew that they were, obviously different. They have different solubles in them and chemicals from uses, but I never really thought about the big split that it could cause in the filtering buildings. But that's all, like I was saying earlier, newer stuff that I've been getting to learn through Methuen. It's all everything that I've done so far has been working on something that, sure, like we've kind of maybe talked or tried to mimic the task a little bit in school, but it's like doing it the first time, and they've just been really great about guiding me through and helping out whenever I need it.
So Abby, what's one piece of advice that you have for someone, looking into the construction management program at Wentworth, or who wants to pursue a career in construction?
I would say one of the most important things to remember when you're looking at school or any, extracurricular, any co-op, is to remember what your passion was and still is, and what originally intrigued you to go towards something like this. Construction is a very special field to study, and an even more special field to be a part of every day. It's a place that is forever changing, and that's such a cool, good thing, because you never get bored. You're always kept on your toes. I think that a lot of students right now, at least when I was going through high school, I graduated in 2018, and one of my biggest frustrations with the public school system was their lack of guidance and support for students who didn't necessarily see themselves going into a typical, business or math, someone who doesn't really stick out in all their academic classes. Schools kind of made them feel like you have college or you have nothing. And that's just not true. They need to support all the vocational aspects because people can be brilliant in very different ways. That was something that I saw throughout all my high school woodshop programs, especially. And I fought very publicly for about 3 months back in my junior year at Portsmouth for our CTE construction program. Seems our school was deciding to cut it. It was actually during my sophomore year, I think. Anyway, they were shutting down the entire program because all the surrounding community colleges were shutting down their construction, 2-year associate degree programs. And so the high school was saying how, well, if these kids don't have like a college path to go into, then we're not gonna bother funding it. So right there, you can't go to college afterwards for this. Well, we're not gonna help you learn it. Even though they are a public school, feeding our entire surrounding 5-town population of students. Everyone is very different. And they ended up cutting it, but throughout a lot of my speeches to the school board and getting the public involved, all the different construction businesses right around here, I made it very clear to them that no matter what you do with construction, whether you're a laborer or all the way up in, a project executive position, fully managing and doing paperwork, that it's a sustainable career. You can support yourself, your family, whatever you choose. And going to Wentworth has been a really nice reminder of that every day. Like I said, for my reasoning for choosing them, they have all these vocational hands-on classes. And our department, can't help but brag about us because it's just like the best family that you could ask for. Our teachers are so supportive. They don't have to even be teaching the class. They could have, taught in the class maybe 3 years ago, and you can still go up to them in their office hours or just up in the hallway and be like, hey, I got a question for you. And they'll sit down, they'll explain it. Our students, it's really nice being in that close environment and not, being lost in this huge sea. We all seem to have, similar interests being in this major, and we get to, go out in that construction building trades course in freshman year. That's everyone's favorite, but just that hands-on reminder that this is where we came from with construction, and that yes, you can go out and manage everyone and make the big bucks, but that you can also go out and like do this cool hands-on way of, and we have Professor Snow, who owns and operates her own helicopter company, and she ties that into her wood and steels and statics of design classes. So I think it's just really like wholesome and nice to remember that you had an original, goal for yourself when you were younger, maybe, or even back in high school. And no matter what happens throughout the next couple of years, Wentworth has been a fantastic reminder of that. And it's going to set me up just for what I want in the future. And I think that it has the possibility to do that for anybody else, especially with construction.
I think that that's great. And being the last episode, not that that's a bad thing, but I think you made a lot of good points that have been echoed throughout the other episodes too. So, you people listening don't just hear from one person, you heard it from now 5 people, that I think construction is a good career, and it's not like I don't know what the term, like the stigma, I guess, about what it is. There's so many different aspects to it, so many different positions, so many different things that you can do.
Right.
So that's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, like right in my own family, we have my dad who did 1 year at UNH. He didn't end up completing their associates. He had to go out to work, but he went out, did his own business. My brother is in the trades. He works in the Boston Carpentry Union. He graduated from the same high school I did, the same construction program that I fought for. And he now supports, a family of 3. And then there's me, who I chose the college path, but I'm still very stuck onto that hands-on residential side. I just love, creating a product that I'm proud of and that makes other people happy. So
I totally agree with, like Wentworth always has your back, especially in the construction department.
mhm.
It's just like a good support system and little family. And
It really is like a little family. I said I was a homebody earlier, but I can't tell you a time that I felt homesick. Because you just always know that there's someone that you can turn to. I mean, especially Mike is always there.
yes. Yeah, I've been home for pretty much exactly 1 year now, and like I totally miss my little CM family out in Boston for sure. I mean, I love being at home, but I feel like part of me is missing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was doing online classes last semester, I went down to, some of my boys' apartments off campus and stay with them as much as possible to do work, because it's something about the city. It's like my heart rate's 20 beats faster. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go.
And just like the physical collaborating aspect, that's what I really miss about the school, especially with the professors.
I know. They're all so fun to chat with in class.
Abby, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciated having you and listening to your story. And thank you so much.
Thanks for taking the time to check out our podcast. The Wentworth Construction Management Club is part of Wentworth Institute of Technology, a university in Boston, Massachusetts. We are always looking for new guests. If you are interested in coming on the show, please email us at cmclub@wit.edu. If you are interested in purchasing a 30 or 60-second ad to be broadcast during our show, please email cmclub@wit.edu with your name, contact information, and a description of what you would like to promote. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just search for WIT CM Club. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the CM Club podcast.